Hi, everybody. Welcome to Being Real. I am Nompi, and with me I have Lesejo. She's somewhere in the background. Les, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, welcome to episode 2 of Being Real. Now, last week we had an all male panel, and they had a lot of things to say about what manhood is in the 21st century. So, this week we have an all female panel, and we are talking about womanhood in the 21st century. Now, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves because they are very specific about the way you pronounce their names. So, we want to get it right as we start. So we're going to start with Londi, and then everyone else can just go through and introduce themselves.
Good evening, everyone. I am Londele Jeshani, but I am comfortably called Londi because just as she mentioned, a lot of times, the pronunciation gets a bit twisted. So Londi, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. Next we have Melody, I think. Oh, Londi, where are you? Sorry, before we move on to Melody.
Oh, I am in South Africa and Umtata. Yes, I am here. I'm based here and I work here as well. A family's here. Everything is here. So yes.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Londi. Okay, then we have Melody.
Hi everyone. My name is Melody Kandar. Is the surname. It's Shona. I'm based in South Africa, Johannesburg, but originally I'm from Zimbabwe. Some of my family is here and some is back home in Zim.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Melody. And then last but not least, we have our Nigerian princess here.
So my name is Ogechi Njikum. I am Nigerian, obviously Igbo and Nigerian, but I live currently in Berlin, Germany with my family.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming and availing yourselves to this platform. Just to get the ball rolling, I need to ask you a question. Now, what is womanhood? Yeah, what is womanhood? I don't know. Oh, yeah, by the way, guys, today we have our resident expert on womanhood, on all things womanhood, and her name is Londi. So we're gonna start there before we open up the platform to everyone else, and she's gonna get this ball rolling. Londi, what is womanhood?
I cannot believe you, Nompi. I cannot believe you. All right, so I'm gonna talk a bit about where maybe the term is extended from, because before womanhood there is woman. So maybe I'm gonna start there a bit. Now a lot of my ideas, a lot of my opinions, a lot of my views are influenced by my religious background, particularly. I am a child of God. And so a lot of my opinions, they are always, very greatly influenced by my relationship with God. And so when I was just, thinking around the topic, I mean, because I've done it before, and I guess that is the reason why Nompi is referring to me as this expert in this topic.
Yes.
I think one of the most interesting and exciting ways of description that I found in the Bible when I was looking through, what womanhood, what it is, what God meant when He created a woman, how God sees the lens through God which sees a woman, and the perspective and His perception, and the perception that He actually wants women and men alike to basically have when they think of a woman. So my comprehension of the concept of phenomenon of womanhood is definitely influenced a lot by my relationship with God. And so I found in the Bible, I think it's when Adam was given a responsibility, to give names to the animals, so on and so forth. And then the Bible says there in Genesis chapter 3, verse 20, it says that, and Adam shall name his wife Eve, for she shall be the mother of all who live. And that sat with me. That sat with me. I think that sat with me because I, one, resonate and identify myself with it and relate with the idea that God was instilling in Adam. Because essentially God was saying to Adam, a woman is so powerful, a woman is so able, a woman has this ginormous capacity. And right at that point, I was, yes, that is womanhood to me, even today. So I think womanhood is always described in totally different ways, of course, depending on context. You will want to look at the anatomy and physiology of the body, and you would want to say, okay, woman is female because of how we are physiologically, made up. And then culturally, maybe, or in society, one would say that womanhood is a stage of transitioning from being a girl to being a woman,
Adult,
right? So in different contexts, you will find different definitions of a woman and womanhood. So mine really just does sit within those parameters of what God means, what God meant when he created a woman. And another thing about, defining this concept or just breaking down the concept of womanhood, we are so much, tempted to always lean towards defining it by the roles that we're given as women. And sometimes, sadly, the roles that even society will, impose. And so it is very important. It's one of those very important conversations to have, and even to ask yourself as to what is it to me. And I think my comfort was just found when I found, that verse that, when Adam was naming his wife Eve, it was also because of the fact that she would, be the mother of all who live. And for me, I was blown away. I was blown away. Womanhood to me is a state of being powerful, a state of being very able, unrestricted and unlimited, a state of just so much capacity, just so much ability. So, yeah, that is what womanhood is to me.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else has something they want to pipe in with?
I think I just want to add
What
that
is womanhood?
a woman is, I like the definition and all the explanations that Londi gave, but just to add to what she said, a woman is completely different from a man in terms of the biological
Okay.
features which she mentioned. So men are just completely different. Our strength level compared to men is totally different. I think it's because of the fact that they have some hormones that we do not have. In terms of, I'm just talking about in terms of strength. And also because of these hormones that they have, men are also able to endure very, very tasks that demand high energy. And that's because of the testosterone. So in terms of when you talk about differences, women are different. And even in our roles also, like what she was defining based on the Genesis verse that she stated for us, our roles are also different. But I know the challenge she tried to raise to us is the fact that the society and people at large are always trying to lean on the specific roles that women have to play. But we should still, in as much as, yeah, I think people have abused the fact that women have specific roles. But the truth is that we were made to fulfill different roles, both male and female. I just wanted to point that out there. I really enjoyed her explanation. Now I see she's a real expert in this area.
Okay. Interesting. Meta, did you have anything to add?
No, they've basically touched on almost everything that I wanted to say. But maybe in addition, I can just say that although I understand what Londi was saying and Ogechi, I think a woman sums up to anything that the definition is personal, it's individual. We can look at the Proverbs 31 kind of woman that people like to quote a lot. This woman, she incorporates everything. She is a housewife, she is a businesswoman, she's an entrepreneur, a generous giver, and all that, a hardworking woman. So at the end of the day, I don't think we should subject ourselves to what society defines women to be, because women are not only childbearers, it goes beyond that. So yeah, that's all I just wanted to add.
Okay, so I'm hearing certain things here. I'm hearing one, women have a lot of power that is ingrained within them, right? Londi mentioned about how Eve, her name meant mother of life, right? So from woman, we find a lot of life coming into the world, right? So I don't want to limit it to just childbearing, but there's a lot of aspects of life that come in. Like you cannot have a fully functioning home without a woman, because women just bring life, into the home. And then there's the aspect of how women should not be tied down to specific roles. Yes, there are roles that we have that are completely different from men. Like, for example, childbearing. Like, there's no man who can give birth to a child, just to be extreme. But there are different roles that we have, men and women. But we should not be tied down by those. But my next question is then, is there a difference between the woman today, in today's world, and Eve back then? Like, has womanhood taken on a different face? And I ask this in relation to feminism. Like, there's a lot of feminism going around in the world, and women taking power and taking, saying this is who we are, this is what we deserve, and all that stuff. And so that's my question: is there a difference between back then and today? This is open to anyone.
I actually think society is what is changing, but the term womanhood and who a woman is not changing. That's my opinion. But society is changing and making more demands on women, or causing us to live in a different way. But a woman is still a woman. Eve back then, if she's brought into this year, 2020 or 2021, oh my God, I'm still living in the past. 2021, we still fit into this society now.
Okay. So Eve, Mary, everyone would fit here. Okay. Yeah, Melody.
Yeah, I agree with what Ogechi is saying. Basically, there's not really much of a difference. It's just that there is enculturation. Culture is forever changing. So I just feel like it's the problems that women have. Let's say, for instance, Eve had back then. It's just that there's a new edition of new challenges, because the world is forever evolving. But I don't really think is any difference between women back in the past and the contemporary women that are living in the 21st century.
And I also think the challenges that Eve faced then, some of us in the 21st century will not also face them.
Exactly.
I just want to just sort of like just a little bit go into the challenges part of this conversation. As Olga has just said, that the definition of a woman back then and the definition of a woman right now is the same or remains the same. I think for me personally right now, because I'm very much aware of all the challenges that us as women face. And so it's safer to me to say should be the same rather than to say they are the same. Because if we're looking at women in the 19th century, we are going to find a lot of women imprisoned in their own abilities, restricted in their own capacities. And then you find women in the 21st century very, liberal, very able to do all of these things that they want to actually do. And all of these things that God actually meant them to also do. And all of these things that God meant them alone to do. So as much as with what Oge is saying, that the definition is the same from back then and now, I think for me personally, it's safe to say it should be the same based on my beliefs. Like it should really honestly be the same. But because of the challenges that we face as women, we do see a lot of, I don't even want to call them, developments or advances, because at the end of the day, it's just the reality. It's inevitable that there are all these changes that are happening and that are influencing our ideas as as society, actually, not even as just only women, but as society in general. And so I like that it puts me at a place of comfort to say the definition of a woman back then is the same as the definition of a woman right now. However, I'm so aware of all these challenges that we face as women, and so I want to then say it should be the same. The definition of a woman back then should be the same as the definition of a woman right now.
Okay, so what I'm getting is that womanhood is not necessarily evolving. Am I correct? God has a specific idea of what he wanted a woman to be, and that hasn't changed just because time has moved on. Am I
Correct.
getting you guys correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Whatever God meant for a woman to be back then. So
is what
I was
it
just
should be
saying
today.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So now my question is then, what is it that a woman should be then? I need us to define that and break it down, because we established, okay, back then, today, same, no difference. So what is it that a woman is socially, professionally, religiously, society, like everything? Like, just give it to me. What is a woman to you? When you think about a woman, what is it?
Are you asking us to actually just list down, maybe just mention the roles, so that I think we can elaborate from each role that, okay, this is what women are supposed to be today. I think we can try it that way. The roles. Maybe we can look at the roles.
Okay, let's go that way. Let's look at the roles. What is the role of woman here?
She's the manager of the home. I mean, the same way you have a manager in a company who oversees the affairs of the home, I think a woman is also the manager of the home. So that's
if they're not married.
Yeah, that was going to be my question.
Even if she's not married, I grew up in a home with 4 brothers, and I wasn't married, and I really was managing the home. I was managing the home, and sometimes it was really frustrating. Like 3 of them were older than me, and I just have 1 younger brother, so you can imagine the demands.
Okay, so what you're saying is it safe to say that the roles that we're going to define now are roles that apply to single women as well as married women?
I think so.
Okay, all right.
Except someone disagrees.
Let's move on then.
I definitely
relate
relate
something
with
before
what
we move on.
is saying. Okay, all right.
If you then say a woman is the manager of the house, what then makes men? Because when we then come to the contemporary modern woman, right? When we are looking at it from a feminist perspective, we are then saying we are burdening the woman. Imagine you had 4 brothers and you were the manager of that house. That means you literally had to manage 4 people. That's work on its own.
Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
I actually relate a lot with what Oge just said. I also come from a family of, 6. I've got 4 brothers and eldest daughter, and I definitely had to manage the home. At that point in time, I mean, I remember I was really, really young when I realized that actually these human beings that I call brothers, they really are just waiting on me to, start preparing dinner, make sure that all of them have ties on Sabbath. Everything literally, I'm telling you, with brothers, it's hectic. But at the very same time, I do understand the question that Melody is posing, as in, weren't you burdened? Weren't you burdened to find yourself in that role and responsibility? Now, I'd like to say that the thing about roles and responsibilities that are God-given, no matter which way I look at it, no matter what influences that may sort of like haunt at that particular point in time, or that season in my life, or that stage that I'm going through, the responsibilities and roles that we give God are a delight. I can't be alone on this one, guys. They are a delight. You're happy to do this. You feel like, can't wait to, you are so excited to go to a furniture store because you're just like, oh my God, this is what I'm going to put this with, and this and that and the other. You're excited, guys. Or is it me alone? It can't be me alone. Like all these roles and responsibilities of homemaking, nurturing. I mean, I find them to be a delight. I think the problem begins when they are sort of like, I don't know, you're either forced to do it, and then it suddenly feels like, no, it's not fair. But other than that, from way back, I think that it's such a delight to actually fulfill your roles and responsibilities that are God-given. Because somehow I am led to believe that it's innate. It's innate to want to nurture. It's innate to want to take care. It's innate to want to make dinner. Like I could be sitting around with my 4 brothers here and think, no matter what I think, I am going to get up and, if there's no dinner there, I definitely will feel it in my heart that maybe I should get up and go make dinner.
Sorry, I'm going to stop you there for a second, Lundi, and I want to ask the question: is it that it's innate, or is that you've been socialized that way?
Exactly.
I want to think.
Go ahead.
That's the thing. The moment I say I'm socialized or to think that way, then it's because I'm finding it a burden. But because I don't find it a burden, I really do just feel like I want to do it. I want to do it. I want to take care. I want to nurture. I want to, make the home. I want it. So, and where do I get that desire from? I think then when we want to look at what innate really does mean, we would realize that it's got everything to do with a desire that you don't even know where it comes from, but naturally you desire to do so. So I want to do it. I love to actually do it, so.
Yeah, I really, really agree with Londi. I think it's an innate desire we have, no matter, even if a man is trained or it's been socially imparted on him to take the role of a woman. Let me give, for example, my husband, Stanley. He grew up with 6 sisters, and he's about the 8th child in the house. And they grew up learning they were domesticated as boys in the house. But I think it's more of a burden for him to do that, especially now that we live together. I mean, we can both be sitting down and enjoying the day, but he's not thinking of how to prepare dinner or breakfast or lunch. It's something, if I ask him to do it, he will do it, but he would rather someone else do it, and especially the woman do it. Because even though he was trained to go ahead with all the domestic activities in the house, but he needs to be reminded. So it's not an innate desire in him. Yeah, seriously, I believe it's like innate in for ladies to want to take care of the home.
Yeah.
But then
Interesting.
I disagree, ladies. I think it's socially constructed because we grew up being told that ladies should do house chores and all that and everything. But parents from like a younger age, they say, let's say, for instance, they are twins. It's a boy and it's a girl. If they grow up together, sweeping the house, doing dishes, cooking, and everything, I don't think that boy, as an adult, as a young man, will find it difficult or will find it as a burden to do it, because it would have already been instilled in him as a child. So I strongly believe that gender roles, they are instilled in us. It's not that it's in a person. It's not innate, because honestly, there are some women who don't like doing chores. And I might be one of them. There are days that I really don't feel like, I really don't want to sweep. I really don't want to do dishes or cook. But then at the
I
end
also
of the
feel that way.
so honestly, I don't think it's an inward thing. It is something that was imposed on us, like because of the social constructions that we grew up in.
Can I come in, Nompi?
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah, sure.
before you say something less, I can see Chilu here, Chilufia, and I've been wanting to say hi since. I don't know if she can hear us, but it's so good to feel like Chilu is close to me via
She's
internet.
nearby.
I can hear you. Hi.
Hi, Chilu. So
Hi,
let's you can
Chilu.
go on.
Oh, you wanted to greet.
That's all I wanted to do.
I wanted to say, in response to what Melody is saying, I hear both sides of the story, and they all make sense to me. But what I want to say is, I feel like we have this innate trait as women that we can't run away from. Londi mentioned nurturing, caring, and stuff. But what I've realized is they come in different shapes. For example, with Londi saying, she doesn't mind perhaps caring in a sense of cooking and for her it's okay. It what appeals to her. Perhaps with Melody, it can come in a different way altogether. I once made an example when we were having this discussion sometime that on the issue of caring, me and my sister, two different people. With her, she can spend the whole day making sure that people are taken care of in the house, whatever in the house is. But my caring will come in a different way, where I would reach out to people and I want to know how they are doing and stuff.
Right.
So to say it will take this certain shape, I don't think it's fair for us to limit to that point, but allow it to, because we are individuals and we are unique. So perhaps we can agree that the traits that we have are common, but how they manifest themselves or the shape they take, it's a totally different story.
Okay.
Okay.
My question then to you ladies is, does it being a role that a woman should, let's just say, for example, manage the home, does it make it any easier? Because I'm getting the feeling that because it's a role that's assigned to women, then it should be easy. It should come naturally. Does it mean that it should come naturally? Does a role that's given to us by God automatically come naturally out of us?
Absolutely, positively not. It doesn't make it easy. How on earth would, okay, I don't have a child, but like I'm thinking childbearing. I'm thinking not easy. However, as you're asking this question, I want to just comment on some of Melody's points as well as Liz's points. to sort of like say, guys, when it's roles and responsibilities and they come in that nature of them being just different, it's not to say that I can't go to the garden and, you know, tend the plants, flowers, and you know, everything. It's not to say I can't. And it's not to say that brothers can't go to the kitchen and make dinner. But should you start now putting them on a roster like do this, do this, do this, and they will rebel and they will be like, no, I don't feel like doing it today. They don't want to do it. Same applies to me. I don't always want to wash the dishes. I don't always want to clean up the house. I don't. But if I'm looking at my brothers and I'm looking at myself, I definitely know that this definitely should be mine. I want to do it. Are you with me when I put it in that manner to say I am expecting them to assist? What Oge was saying is that her husband is not thinking right at 4 o'clock thinking about making dinner, but she is. And some days the husband will make dinner. But the moment you make it his role, like he's part of it, he's part of the whole plan, that you're cooking on Wednesday and I'm cooking on Friday and you're cooking on Sabbath and you're cooking, no, then it's a totally different thing. It's a totally different thing.
And to
That's
an extent,
when
you might
the
even
whole
see
delight.
rebellion. Sorry, I just wanted to add to you, to a point, at some point, you may even get to see him rebel.
Okay.
Precisely
what
what
you're
I'm
saying.
saying is that, yes, precisely what I'm saying.
But then, Londi, to take it back, you then said it's a role, it's a woman's role. Once you then say it's a women's role, I think it then comes off bad. It shouldn't be a role. I think as a society, being modern and all that and everything, we shouldn't make it roles, like gender roles. So women are supposed to do this, men are supposed to do that. I think that we must just naturally instill these things when kids are growing up. For instance, your mother didn't also make a duty roster for you to say, so Londi, at 5, you sweep the house, at 8, you cook breakfast, at 1, you cook lunch and all that. It was instilled with you naturally. So I just feel like it should be instilled in everybody.
I also agree with you.
A woman's role.
I think
That it shows that it's now 4 p.m. I should start preparing dinner. Should be the same way the husband should also feel. Naturally, you should just say, you know what, it's getting dark. Obviously, we have to eat before we sleep.
Londi, please, can I say something? Because I can see your eyebrows
Yeah,
go.
sure, go first.
I mean, I agree with you that it should be the same for that male and female should be instilled with this role, this what you're trying to describe. But if you wait for a man to think of feeding you and taking care of the house, you will go hungry in that house. They may get used to it for a while, but they will always forget. Look, I'm laughing because at some point growing up in the house with 4 boys, I was wishing to have a boy as my first child because he needs to bear the brunt of everything my brothers did to me. I need to domesticate him. I need to make him learn all of these things so that he can just take the role that I took when I was growing up. But I've just come to realize that men and women are wired differently, entirely different. Seriously, I don't know if it's because of the hormonal compositions in their body or for us to. I am not joking. Immediately I hear a baby cry, I'm already wondering, oh, is he okay? Is he fine? But this baby can be crying for 5 hours and my husband is just saying, he's pressing his laptop and he's saying, you'll be okay. I mean, he knows that the baby is hurting,
so
but go ahead, Londi.
I actually was sort of like walking alongside Melody when she was like, maybe let's not call them roles. To the point where I was like, clearly the term role has a, negative connotation somehow. Now, how would we put it, Melody? How would we put
I'm
it?
just wondering.
For lack of a better word, let's say role for now. How else would we put it? Melody, over to you.
Uh, guys, now you've put me in a spotlight. I don't really have like an official term right now, but I just feel like I said in the beginning, it should be instilled in us. It should become sort of like not a role. I don't
Can
know
I
how to
ask?
say,
Okay.
but it,
Can I come in there? Maybe just so that we have a direction of where we're going. So I worked at Spa, and one of the principles that's there, like in terms of like cleaning and stuff like that, was um, clean as you go, right? So every person at every station that you're at, it's your responsibility to clean as you go, right? But at the end of the day, there was still a cleaner who was employed to be responsible for the cleanliness of the organization. But that didn't take away the responsibility of me to make sure that where I'm working is clean. So if I'm working, even if it's not my workstation, if I see a paper, it's my responsibility to pick it up. So maybe perhaps instead of saying role, maybe, I don't know if you're more comfortable with saying responsibility, that it's your chief responsibility as the woman to ensure that people in the house have eaten, whether it's the man who eats, who cooks, whether it's a son who cooks, but the responsibility of ensuring that everyone has been fed lies with the woman. Does that give us sort of some structure in terms of when we're talking about roles moving forward? I don't know. Is
I
that
think we
okay?
need to ask Melody.
I think we need to ask Melody. How does
Oh, Melody, are
responsibility
you fine with this?
find with responsibility?
I think we should go to responsibility because at the end of the day, everyone needs to be accountable. If you were in the whole house by yourself the whole day, and then I come back home, you are my son, and the house is dirty, you have to be accountable. It was your responsibility to make sure the house is clean. When people get back, they get back to a clean house.
But
So I think
and I like
yeah.
what I like what you've said there, Melody, in that now at the end of the day you come home and you are asking what's wrong, why isn't the house clean? It's not the man who's asking why isn't the house clean, because overall it's your responsibility to ensure that the house is clean. So whoever gets the job done, it's done. Yeah? No? Yes? Melody?
Yeah, because
Okay.
with responsibility comes with accountability. You will have to answer to me, why is the house dirty? You were there the whole day doing nothing, watching football or whatever you were doing. So why is the house dirty when you were there the whole day doing nothing?
Okay.
Unlike when we say roles, and then if we now say it's a woman role, when I ask my son, so why is why is the house dirty? He will obviously say, Mom, your daughter was not here.
Your
It's
role.
in the house.
Mm.
But now when it becomes a responsibility, everybody is accountable.
I just want to ask this,
Okay.
and I think we have issues when it comes to the woman's role, maybe because we want the guys to sort of assume these roles or this responsibility at some point in time. But what if the activity is like fixing the generator, or not fixing the generator, something that demands so much physical strength and muscle? Would you also ask the girl child when you come back home, oh, why is the generator not fixed? Or why is the just looking for, let's say you have a farm where you have to drive some tractors or some very, very heavy duty machines, and that job is not done. When you get home, would you ask the girl child, why is that not done? Or would you want to
Okay.
ask the boys? That's
The question is directed to me, right?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, I think then it would be a question of capabilities, abilities. Does the girl child has the know-how, the knowledge of how to fix a generator? Because I tell you something, I know of many female ladies who are truck drivers. Socially, that job was preserved for men in the past, but now I know quite a number of truck drivers, mechanics, you name them, plumbers, all that. So it then comes back to, does the girl child have the knowledge, the know-how of how to fix a generator? If she can fix it, then why not?
You will instinctively think of asking your girl child that when the guys are there.
No.
Like, would she be your first?
Please be honest, Melody. Would you?
Like, she'll be the first person you ask.
Not really.
Okay.
That will be the first person that I ask.
This is interesting.
Okay. Being on the topic of it would be a question of ability or skill. I also want to tap in a little bit to the one that Les was mentioning just earlier on, when she said her sister's not necessarily this type of person and she is this type of person, so on and so forth. And in my head, I just instantly had, spiritual gifts, because I thought of hospitality, because what you are doing, which is to ask if everyone is okay and to always concern yourself, of the well-being of everybody in the household or even around you, that also is a, spiritual gift, just as much as hospitality for your sister who's going to be, being a mother in a situation where, Jesus is there and Mary is looking at or focusing on something else, which is also very, very important. Now, if we're going to be looking at, it's a matter of, does the girl child know how to fix a generator? I think also it is also just, on the same wavelength to say, even with spiritual gifts, because as much as you are a woman and these are your roles or responsibilities, but then comes also spiritual gifts. And with those, you find yourself as a woman being very hospitable, or rather, if not like, the sister to Les, you find yourself like Les, wanting to find out if everybody is well. And so I think maybe we can sort of like look at it in that angle, that if role has a negative connotation, maybe we do away with role and we go to responsibilities. Because at the end of the day, with responsibilities, you account and what you oversee, and you make sure that all that needs to be done is done. And maybe we won't be having conflicting ideas and views when it comes to particularly this part of the conversation.
Okay. That's a lot that we've gone through so far. So responsibility instead of roles. I remembered something as we're talking from last week's presentation, and the guys that were on the panel said something along the lines of a woman is equal to a man, and so they were saying that her responsibilities, okay, I'm going to say responsibility. Her responsibilities are not the same as a man. However, she is equal to a man. So while she may be able to do certain things that a man can do, but it doesn't mean that she has to do those things. And I think that's where the aspect of responsibility comes in. Like, for example, when I would go to work, I could very easily clean the toilet because I know how to clean the toilet. But it's not my responsibility to do it because there's someone who's assigned to that particular responsibility. And so I think it follows the same in what we're trying to talk about here in terms of women's role. I'm going to use this loosely. Sorry, Melody. Women's role, in that we may be able to do certain things or we may not be able to do certain things, but it's about whose responsibility is it at the end of the day to make sure that there's food on the table, to make sure that the house is clean, to make sure that certain things are done in the setting of the home. So now I want us to move a bit away from the home because we've talked a lot about the home and the responsibilities in the home. And maybe we can look at socially responsibility of a woman in the society. How does that play out? That's open to anyone who wants to pipe in. I'm so tempted to go with Londi because you are our resident, expert. So, I'm sorry I'm picking on you.
Like I said, I cannot believe you, Nompi. Socially, in the context, in the social context, the thing about identifying very well with how God meant for a woman to be and the idea of God when he created a woman, the whole thing about it is that it doesn't change. You identify yourself as a woman and you identify yourself as a woman at home, a woman at work, a woman in a friendship, a woman in anywhere, everywhere, in across all spheres. It really doesn't change. However, what will then make it, what will sort of like distinguish it from other different spheres is whatever experiences that are presented to you or whatever situations that you find yourself in at that particular point in time. I think that is what will distinguish it from the one at home and the one at work, or the one in a relationship, or the one in a friendship, or the one so on and so forth. Are you with me?
Okay. Let me just stop you there for a
Really
second. Let me
doesn't,
give you more
it
context to
doesn't
my
change. I
question.
think, okay, I need, yes.
Okay. Let me give you more context to my question. Society in Bible times, women were not very outspoken. The way that women were treated in the society was very different to the way that women play out in today's society. So I want to try and maybe we can try and look at those two and try and bring us to a platform of saying, okay, this is what the role of a woman is society wise. Back then, women were not allowed to speak out in public. Women were not counted, when they would make a census, they would only count the men. So that's a context that I'm coming from in terms of women in society.
Okay. All right. So, okay, with you mentioning that women in the Bible, as much as we do not find, we in the Bible, we find a lot of men as leaders. And very rarely, I will only, in fact, recall Deborah to have been a judge at her time and to have been a leader at that particular point. And so, with leadership, here's how a woman in society today and a woman in society back then, with all the restrictions that came with it. Now, an instinct of a woman in the absence of leadership is to lead. That's the first instinct of a woman. In the absence of leadership, she will lead. And I think now, as opposed to way back then, she would see things fall apart and probably take the back seat, not say much or not have any influence at all. But now, in the absence of leadership, you will find her leading. And because of change in times, there may not necessarily be anything seen as, that won't be seen as wrong, for lack of a better word. So I think that what I do see for women socially right now is that they are definitely very liberal. They are definitely able. They are not restricted. They are not built. They are not boxed. Or even if they are, they still can, rise above all of that and still perform the duties that they see fit to, without being, seen as a rebel if you speak out. They have a voice, they speak out, they have presence, they participate in, policy making. Or maybe I should say we as women in 2021.
Yes.
Yes. So socially, for me personally, I am that woman who speaks up. I will never be known as a woman who kept quiet in a situation where I should have spoken up.
Can I ask?
Yes.
You're referring to women in the absence of leadership, they lead. But then in the corporate world, for instance, I apply for a director, I apply for a chief director, I apply for director general. Those are huge posts. And I'm just thinking, there's no absence of leadership at that particular time. I can be hired, or I will be hired because of my capabilities, not the absence of leadership. So I just want you to clarify that women only, or rather, the correlation. What's the correlation with what is happening in the corporate world? Because I feel like you're more basing it on the religious aspect of things. If I would, because normally in church, you won't find in most cases, you won't find a woman who's an elder if there's a man who can be an elder. But in the absence of that, we can have a woman elder. But corporate world says something totally different, And for me, it's part of the social, or in a way, professional, social, whatever you can think of it. So yeah, the correlation there of I just want to hear what I.
Okay, so I want to repeat what I said, because as you were paraphrasing it, the part that, or the element of my statement, of the statement, you left out, which is the instinct of a woman to lead. I'm not now saying that, she's next in line from being appointed as a chief director. What I'm saying is that in a context where there seems to be no direction, and yet there should be direction, her first instinct is to lead. What I'm saying now is that she will feel it in her that, okay, things seem to be falling apart. Maybe let me just delegate a duty to somebody. In other words, things will not fall apart in the presence of a woman just because she is a woman and she's not allowed to lead. Now, when you speak of in the corporate world, I do think that even before you actually assume that position of being a chief director, a woman will still lead, not necessarily being a chief director. What I'm trying to say is, I'm actually very practical with my statement to say, in practical, like in a situation where, like in a now situation, a woman will want to make sure that things go accordingly. I think that's what I was saying when I put that statement. And it actually does apply not only in the context of church, but also in the context, even in a relationship. I do think that, there are certain things or certain activities that in a relationship you will have. And the moment you realize that, okay, my partner should be doing A, B, or C, and I don't see that happening, so that things don't fall apart, a woman will then have that instinct to lead. That is what I'm saying. So it's not restricted to just the context of church or work, but I think it goes just across.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other?
But how
thoughts?
practical is it? I believe like last week you were having a discussion on manhood, right? I understand what Londi is saying, and I'm not disputing anything. But then, how practical is it? Because we still have men who have an issue with women leading. We still have men who have problems in relationships when a woman, wants to take the role lead. And then he's like, you are trampling my ego, men in their egos and everything. So really, how practical is it in society, in the corporate world, and generally in relationships? Because as we are speaking now, we have lots of feminists who are trying to break the glass ceilings. Like you were saying, a woman is fit to be a CEO, but then because she is a woman, she won't be granted that position. So being real.
Like, really, a woman who is qualified to be a CEO will not be granted the position. Where does that happen?
It's still happening in some countries, in some societies.
In 2021.
I mean, she's more qualified.
Yes, in 2021, I'll give a very good example of my country. I'm not saying there are no women in leading positions and all that and everything, but I'm saying it's very difficult. And even when they are still in those positions, it's very difficult for them to be listened to have that authority. People are just like, she's a woman, so what? Women are emotional wrecks. How is she going to make decisions on behalf of the whole country and all that and all that? Yes, I know that South Africa is very progressive when it comes to such things, but most of the SADC countries, we really still have a long way to go.
I mean, Nigeria is very traditional also. Like, Nigeria is very clear about the role of men or the position of women and men in the society. But I don't see this limitation for a woman who is qualified to be a CEO. I don't see her being denied such a position. I know what you're saying exists, but I mean, I think it's just an individual, will I say beef? I don't think it's a structural problem.
I'm very happy that we've gotten to the point of the conversation where we actually point out the challenges that us women face in the corporate world as well, when it comes to, just being different in gender, really. However, I still want to highlight that what I was saying is that it's the instinct of a woman, meaning that it's something that she feels inside of her to say, okay, things are falling apart, I will lead. Not to necessarily say that she will be put in position, she will be employed for that position in that company or institution. That's not what I was saying. What I was saying is that in the absence of leadership, a woman's first instinct is to lead. And that could even come with the fact that she is such a homemaker. Even that could even come with the fact that she's such a a nurturer. That's just to say, in the absence of it all, she will lead. A practical example is actually what Oge was saying, just saying, if they were to wait on her husband to make dinner, then they would go hungry for that evening. It's basically to say, in the absence of it all, however, I'm very happy, like I say, that we have gotten to the point where we discuss, the challenges that us women face in the corporate world. And when I was just, thinking about it, I really did feel very blessed because I don't have such challenges. And it really is interesting to me to realize that there are still these challenges this very year or last year or when things were normal, whenever. But I really would like for Les to sort of like take us through, because I think she's quite bold about how there are so many challenges, and no matter what position you apply for, if it's this position, you will not get that position just because of the fact that you are a female. And so I really want us to would love for Les to sort of take us through it, take us through these challenges that are being faced in corporate, that still get us so passionate about how we want to lead and how we are denied opportunities to lead, how we are restricted from leading, how we're not allowed to lead out when we actually are skilled or even qualified. So I really think that it's very interesting that really there are these challenges, and I'm so happy that we've got into this part of the conversation. It's just that I want to know more. Like I say, that I am very blessed in my organization. I absolutely do not have. I've never had to experience any of that. I mean, both genders are well represented, equally represented in the organogram of organization. And so I never had to, witness or experience personally a situation where, because I am female, I can't do A, B, C, or D. So if Les can take us through some of the challenges that are being faced.
I can't really say I have specific challenges per se, or I have experienced that. No, I haven't experienced that in my workplace. Like you, I've been really privileged or blessed to be in a very good environment. Perhaps because of my boss is a woman, and I'm not experiencing such. But I mean, that's the reality of issues. I like what Melody was saying, that, and I've had conversations where people say, this person is emotional, they're coming here with their emotions, and thinking that when you think with an objective mind, that's the ultimate. But what people are missing, that there's a need for balance for the two. In psychology, they call it a wise mind, which is the emotional and the objective. So we've been made to think that if I bring this, you bring something in a form of emotions mixed with objective, you're just being weak at that moment. But you might be, in most cases, you might be valid in what you're bringing, and people are missing to read what you're communicating, but they're just looking at what it's at their face, which is really unfair. So it's that, I think, in most cases where you get into that space. Another thing, I think, besides the issue of leading per se, the challenges that women will experience in the workplace is being taken advantage of. I mean, for you to get to a leadership post, perhaps you need to bring something on the table. Bring your body, bring this, and but you will not find that with the men. And they will tell you that I've worked for this, I have qualifications for this. But women must do something to earn that that respect. But in essence, it's not really respect, and stuff. And if you refuse to go that low, then you won't get that position. And you realize that I think most of the people, women in high places and in high positions, most of them have slept with the big men so that they can be there to maintain that. It comes with a cost for you to be a leader. And I think my issue is, or is not an issue. I'm just thinking, like you're saying, as much as men are leaders, we are leaders in our own way. And I feel like if we can embrace the fact that we are leaders in our own way and we can complement each other, I don't think we'd have this thing of like there's that competition and but I guess it's the particular society, or rather system, that has been there for some time. So that's where I'm coming from. Yeah.
Okay. I wanna steer the conversation in a certain direction. Les mentioned about how she's privileged to have a boss that's female. I had a boss that was female as well, but I had a different experience where she wasn't as forthcoming in terms of trying to help, or in terms of having a positive outlook on other females in the organization. So my question comes to this: where do we go now, like in terms of women against women? Because I hear a lot of men talk about it, where they're like, women are always hating on each other. like it's always an issue between women fighting against women. So how do we come to a point where as women we are supporting each other, we are nurturing each other, we are helping each other grow as well, whether it's in the home setting, in professional settings, in whatever settings we're in.
Particularly at work, with what Liz was saying, as well as your question, I actually thought of something similar to your question when she was speaking, that honestly it is a very sad reality. And in mind came, maybe we could have, like, female mentors. I think for the females that are already there and they have very well established in these institutions, companies, and in just the workplace. I think that before you ask that question, Numpi, that maybe if we had more of these female mentors, because honestly it is a challenge for a new young lady intern who needs to now consult a male in the company, and now she needs to bring something to the table. Honestly, if we had female mentors that would sort of like embrace us as we come into the workspace, and with mentorship and just basically building each other, then maybe we wouldn't have such problems. It then goes back to what you're asking, to say women really, we don't support, we fail each other. We fail each other. We really do. We really do.
Olga, you wanted to say something? I saw your hand earlier.
Oh, I was just trying to, when I was saying rising in the career path, so that's why my hand was up. I was concurring to what she was saying, exactly what I had in mind, the mentorship part.
So female
We definitely
mentorship
need
is
more female mentors.
Okay. So it is possible to support each other, and not always be having cat fights and being afraid of having the rug pulled from under you. But I like the shape of this conversation, in that there hasn't been any mention of women are delicate flowers that need special attention. And I'm hearing a lot of talk about how women are strong, they're powerful, they're able to do things that previously were not attributed to women. So as women, we do have a lot of capabilities within us that maybe sometimes we haven't even realized. Sometimes we are not aware of the abilities that we do have. Are there any other challenges that we face as women, aside from the ones that have been mentioned? Because I think we've looked at the ones in the workspace. Are there any other challenges that women face in today's world, in the 21st century? Yeah, okay.
In the workplace, I really agree that a lot of women are now forced to work, not forced. We can find a lot of women now in the corporate world, but I think it's also very challenging for women, or maybe it's having a different kind of effect on women. What I'm trying to say is, like, I hope I don't get misunderstood, but because women are becoming more educated, more career focused, and also trying to go to the highest point of their career, there is this sometimes it's not always the case, but sometimes I actually have a couple of friends that decided to keep everything relationship, everything marriage out of the way until they bag their PhD. So they're having this delayed marriages and delayed a delay in starting a family. Can you hear me?
Pick up, I can hardly hear you.
Oops, sorry, my microphone was down. Do I have to repeat?
Yeah, I
Okay, so I was trying to say that part of the challenges that women face now, due to the fact that a lot of women are now in the corporate world and a lot of women are trying to get to the highest point of their career, is the fact that sometimes some women are advised to keep everything relationship, everything marriage, and starting a family aside until they are able to get to a certain point in their career. And they get to the point where they've achieved all of this. And you have your PhD, you have your master's, you work in a very good firm, but now there's no relationship because your biological clock is maybe ticking, and guys are like, I want this fresh blood. Actually, I knew a guy who was getting older. I met him when he was maybe in his early 30s, and he wanted to get married to a lady that was 25 years old, very fair and tall, something like that. And then he's getting older. He's 33, he still wants a 25-year-old girl. He's 35, he still wants a 25-year-old girl. I'm just trying to say that maybe men are quite selective in the age of the lady they want to get married to. So when women pursue this career path, they get to their 30s, and before you know it, marriage is becoming like a very narrow thing for them. So that's another challenge that I see that the 21st century woman is facing. And another one I also see is the challenge of maternity leave. Yeah, that one. It's so annoying. I went to a conference for all engineers, like female engineers, and the women kept on arguing or talking about, no, not arguing, pouring out their heart, how they have to get back to work almost immediately. And it's so much pressure on them. So much pressure on them. And I never knew it was such a big conversation, but it's a very big deal. And I think it's a very big problem that women are facing.
Mm. So as women, we are faced usually with the challenge of having to choose between our careers and starting a family and having love in your life and all those things. That that's tough. That's really tough. Melody, do you have something to say before I ask the final question?
Okay. Um, we are talking about challenges, right?
Melody, are you there?
Okay, so I just wanted to stress more on the fact that you guys were saying, I'm not saying that you are wrong or what or anything, but there is really a lot of challenges. It's not only socially, it's not only in the corporate world. There is a lot that women face by the fact that we are women. So saying you have never experienced it and all that, which I think is very good for you. But now I've just recalled why I was saying this. I did a work research, I think it was sometime in 2017. And from that research, honestly, there are not so many women who are in leadership positions. And this was basically based on the SADC countries, you know, like Southern Africa, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, all that, you name it. And up to now, there are some women who still, like, is it last? She was saying that they will have to sleep with the boss to get to the top, whereas she has qualifications, capabilities, and abilities to be in that position. So I think it would be so unfair on the women that are actually going through this to just rub it off and say, I haven't experienced it personally. I don't think it's happening. I'm not saying that that's what you were saying, but I'm just saying there are so many women out there who are experiencing these challenges, the glass ceilings. You know that I qualify for this position, but then there's a certain Mr. So and so, and because he's a guy, he gets that position before you. So as women, I think we should really, really discuss more about these things in the corporate world and society at large. Like Ogechi was saying, I just realized, is it what I recalled last week? I think I got a WhatsApp message from a friend which was talking about how it is difficult to marry a lady who's between 27 and 30 because she's now useless. It wasn't necessarily about work ethics and all that, but then they were saying now she knows a lot, like sexually, she has a higher mileage, if so I can say. How they were sort of like dissing women who are 27 and above. And then they were saying, if you're a guy, you are 30 and above, you should aim for these ladies who are between 23 and 25. And I felt attacked being a woman who's in the age group 27 to 30. Like, honestly, where do you get that every woman who's between 27 and 30 is useless, her mileage sexually and all that rubbish? It's just nonsense. So, yeah, those are some of the challenges that we as women also face. I think there is really need for men to be educated on all of these things because they are really, really, really misguided. And I wonder where that comes from, considering that men are actually nurtured by women. But we have a breed of men who are evil, who are insensitive, who are ruthless. And then I tend to wonder, who is raising these men? Is it actually us women, or there's someone doing this job? I don't know.
Yeah, Melody, I really think men are getting more irresponsible. I don't know, but I think men are getting a bit more irresponsible, and it's forcing women to rise up to the challenge to lead. I think men are getting very responsible. Seriously, I don't know where they're getting it from, but men are getting irresponsible.
Can I add?
And we then do, because at the end of the day, we can't burden the woman and say she has to take. Yes, there is nothing wrong with women taking leadership, being the chief manager and all that and everything. But honestly, it then becomes overburdening. We have all those responsibilities we were talking about, and at the same time, you have work, and then at the same time, you have to babysit a grown man, like a 30-year-old man. You have to sit him down. This is not how you do things. This is how you must do things. I just feel it's overwhelming for us women. Something really needs to be done by men themselves.
Mm, mm.
Can I come
Actually,
in?
okay, Clip, before you come in, Liz, I was just going
Liz,
to
you wanted to say something?
No, Lindy can go. I'll speak after her.
Thank you, Liz. So I was just, as Melody was speaking, I was thinking of the conversation from last week by the guys on manhood. And one of the guys mentioned something like, it is the responsibility of a woman to, okay, a man has the vision and then a woman must basically implement it. And I think even on the comment section below, there were, someone was asking, is this even true? Is this even the case? And just to agree with what Oge was saying, that they've really grown very irresponsible men these days. If ever their thinking is, and even their belief actually is around the fact that they must have a vision and then women must, implement. I think that yes, a man must definitely have a vision, but a responsibility or role in that context is not to necessarily implement, but to see to it that it is implemented. That is a totally different role. That is a totally different responsibility. That is a totally different duty, even if for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And I guess it goes to what you're saying. Yes, to support, to support that which already does exist. or sort of like to support that which already is, underway, like in process. But he needs to have a vision. Because again, we are going to go back to the Bible to see God saying that this is the reason, for a woman to be a helpmeet for a man, meaning that he has a vision that he already does have, even before he meets this woman who's going to be a helpmeet for him in practicality in life. And so there, not necessarily is she going to implement. Imagine, that would mean the man only has to just think and have ideas and just think and just brainstorm and literally just, that's where his role ends. And then as a woman, you must then implement. Then Melody is right to say that's just being overburdened. How I don't even know how to continue from saying how. Honestly, how on earth how would we have, be in a situation where a man, all he does is mental action. He just thinks, he has an idea, he has a vision, and then because you are Bob the Builder, you must make sure it's like you must just implement by yourself. No, I think I am there with Oge when she says men are really growing to be very irresponsible. But there is a part of me that does think that maybe the gentleman that was speaking last week on this, when you speak and then you miss a certain word or something, because I really because it can't be the case, honestly, because I listened to that conversation and I don't think he was saying that women must implement. I mean, I don't think so.
Okay,
can I come in?
Maybe as women. Okay, go ahead, Liz.
Oh, okay. I wanted to speak on the challenges that you mentioned. Actually, I wanted to go a bit back where you spoke about the women. What should be changed? How can we improve the situation? I think one of the things, the reason why we are so competitive with each other, it's primarily because of how we were raised, how we were socialized in this sense. I don't know if you've looked at relationships. A man can have a side chick, right? And when he has a side chick, all right, if anything goes wrong in a relationship, it's a woman's problem. It's not a man's problem. And then the man will say, I have a side chick because you were doing this and that. So me as a woman who's been cheated, I must compete with this other woman so that I can gain his respect, his confidence, and so that thing of us competing in the boardroom comes from home. And we've seen that around so many times. So I'm sitting and I'm thinking, we need to change the mindset of the women, that if a man cheats on you, it's not your fault, the fault is his. He's got a problem type of a thing. And you should not have walk away. If anything, you should not have a problem with the other woman, rather have a problem with your man. If that mindset can change, I don't think we'll have issues in the boardroom, because we'll realize that actually we are a team, we are one. But because of that, how we've been socialized, like Melody was saying, it has come now even in the boardroom. On the issue of the challenges, I think one of the issues that we have in the 21st century is women are not safe, guys. We are not safe. It's in South Africa, Melody can attest, Londi can attest. We're always watching our back. Watching our back. Anything can happen. We can be abducted, human trafficked, we can be raped. Anything can happen. So we are not safe in our, when lockdown started, one thing that I appreciate about it working at home was that I'm not looking at my shoulder, what's going to happen. I just wake up and I do my work here at home and stuff and move on with life. And I know that I'm safe in these walls. But immediately I go out, I always tell my friends, when you go out and it's at night, I'm like, I can't drive at night, guys. I'll have to leave the car and I'll have to catch a ride with you and bring me, because it's not safe. So that's one of the challenges that I can think of, our safety.
I think it still boils down to the fact that men are losing focus on who they are supposed to be. Why should you try to attack a woman? I mean, if you know the reason why you were created was to protect even your home, protect your family, protect the community, but why should you attack? Even when we had lockdown too in Nigeria, I heard they had a lot of robbery like cases back home. And so what it took the young men in the place where my mother lives to start taking turns to watch the nights and watch homes. And I just think it all boils down to the fact that some men have decided to take advantage of who they are, their strength, and then to make women their victims, to be a predator, and that's really not nice.
But then the question remains, where is this thing stemming from? Is it their obsession with power? What is it really? Because at the end of the day, men are actually supposed to protect us. Physically, we will not argue that we are not that powerful. So obviously, if you are get into an alteration, a physical alteration with a guy, he will obviously overpower you. But then when they are supposed to protect us, why are they so barbaric? Where is it coming from? That will forever remain my question. Over years, I've asked that the same question, and I still don't have an answer to it. The rise of femicide, especially in South Africa. When Les talked about the lockdown, I actually remember when the lockdown started, I quickly stepped out to go to a supermarket, which is like 10 minutes away from my house. But I didn't tell anyone. I was just like, it will be a 20 minutes, 10 minutes to go, 10 minutes to come back. I'll be back soon. But then my nephews were quick to realize, to notice that I was not in the house. And they got worried. They're like, where's auntie? Where's auntie? When I came back, everybody was sick, worried. In those 20 minutes, everybody had held palpitations, sweating, and all that. Because that's how dangerous it is in South Africa. You could step out of your house and never make it back. And day after day, the president is always talking on TV, the minister, Becky, Tele. But still, men don't get it. Why?
Man, sis, I think the only solution to this is, or the reason for this is just the walking away from God. Nampi asked before we started if we all have Christian backgrounds, and I think the answer was yes. Yes, the problem is just the walking away from God. Men are no more looking up to Christ as a model. Not men, let me not generalize. Some men are no more looking up to Christ as their model. And if you don't look up to Christ as your model, who else will be your model? Lucifer, and all the evil that comes from him. And that's why you had to be so dark and you decide to do all of that. That's the only reason why this is happening.
Yeah.
But then what do we do to make them come back to Christ? Because in most African homes, you will find that people who go to church are mothers and their daughters. The fathers and their sons, they are so unbothered. Sunday is a resting day for them. They go, to taverns, or they just rest, they play soccer and all that. I just don't get why men are not so involved. Why can they meet us halfway?
I think it's beautiful when men realize who they are. I think it's incredibly a beautiful thing when men know who they are in Christ. Because one of the questions that were asked from last week's conversation was, what is a man? And I remember this one response when the man said, a man is a representative of God.
Yeah, remember that.
And you will go back in time and listen to your grandmother do that way back then. When you see a man and you are in a strange area and you see a man, you feel protected. You feel like, okay, I'm safe. There's a man around. And today, if you see a man, you are in danger. I can barely run in the mornings by myself. I always need a friend, a male friend to run with, or a group of, us must all run together collectively, but never alone. I'm always watching over my shoulder. A couple of weeks just when lockdown started, I think the second week after March 26th, we're just running down the street as we normally do. And this car came and took one lady that was a couple of feet in front of us. And it was a situation where I was like, this is happening right here. I can see it. I'm looking at it. We are just not safe. How did we get here? And what can be done? I think it's just frustrating to be living in this reality. And honestly, one reason, major reason for it is that men no longer identify with God. Men are definitely not now, representatives of God. Like, it's a beautiful thing when a man realizes who he is. It's a beautiful thing when a man realizes who he is called to be.
Mm, that's very true. I like that you guys actually answered the question that I was going to ask next. I was going to ask, what needs to be done? And I think we have managed to answer that question, unless there is another contribution with regards to that. Um, Now, just to round up this conversation, I'm going to ask each of you ladies to just give your final thoughts on this topic, at least something that you want the viewers to take away from this conversation. If they forget everything else, what is the one thing that you don't want them to forget? We will start with Melody this time. Yeah.
Okay, so just rounding off with the last question about what do you think men need to do and everything from a religious perspective, I also think men really, like Oge and Londe were saying, they've really fallen short of the glory of God. It's like they are distant from their creator. Um, there is one Bible verse that men like to quote, and I think a lot of times it's misused and misquoted, that women should be submissive and all that and all that. I think it's in Ephesians, if I'm not mistaken. That verse, if you read it from the beginning, it also talks about how men should love their wives. It is their responsibility to love women, and women, it is our responsibility to respect and all that and everything. But then I feel that our modern men, they really don't know how to love like the modern women. Maybe it's because of the enculturation, because of the world forever evolving and everything, but really they should sit down, really read a full scripture, not just start from the where women must be submissive. Yes, we must be submissive. I always tell guys that when a woman is loved correctly, she submits naturally. You don't even need to tell her that, hey, when I respect me, respect just comes naturally because there is something to respect. You can't force me to respect you when there is nothing to respect about you. So at the end of the day, I feel that men should really, I don't know if they should do researches, they should do that on how to love women right. Because honestly, you can never murder a person that you love. You can never enslave a person that you love. Because most women, they feel like they are enslaved when we were talking about roles, responsibilities. Oh, this, yes, you were saying naturally there are women's roles, responsibilities, whatever, but they feel like they are enslaved because the men are not doing anything to assist them. They are just being men. And then what? And even the point that Londi was talking about, in the corporate world, he comes with this idea, and then now it's your job to implement it. It's not your job. Yours is only to support his vision. He must do the work. So at the end of the day, I really feel that men should really sit down, go back to their creator, read Bible verses and they just do the right thing. Because honestly, you can't hate, you can't murder, you can't kill, you can't enslave, you can't bother something that you love. It is their godly responsibility to love us. So yeah, that's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Melody. Lundi?
No, with what Melody was saying, I marvel at the audacity that a man can have to say, yea, when you must respect. Because, even the Bible, God is saying that to a woman to love. God is saying to a man to to submit, and then to a man to love. And so if I'm not doing that, if at all at any point I'm not doing that, I mustn't be having a man tell me to do that. Because if I'm not doing that, I'm being disobedient to God.
Mm.
So at what point am I questioned by him, or even, queried on by him that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And I totally agree with what that statement, that when a woman is loved correctly and then she, submits naturally. However, it still remains your responsibility to honor and respect. It still remains a man's responsibility to love. So to close off, I think one statement that if if anybody forgets anything here, I definitely would want to say that just remember who God said you are before the world told you who to be, or your experiences told you who to be. Because again, the one advice I would say, or maybe a recommendation, would be that men, women alike, we all must just return to God.
Mm.
Things go accordingly when we are aligned to our creator. Things could possibly go very, very well if at all we could go back to the power source, who will then provide us with, the discipline, the self-control, the joy, the love, the peace, all of that. Um, it's unfortunate we can never buy, we can never win, we can never attain, we can never qualify for, but we get all of that from God. And so if we all, particularly men in this context, if we could just all return to God, I think that's definitely one recommendation that would need for, understanding men to return to God.
Mm. Thank you so much for that.
Mm.
Okay.
I guess I'm next. Okay. So I think one last thing, what I would like to leave with whoever would watch, for any of us that have brothers and men in our lives, I think there's a cry from women for men to rise up to their responsibilities. We are really, really yearning to see men live up to what God called them to be, or who God called them to be. And I also want to leave this thought that I love being a woman, no matter how much men fail. I just love being a woman. I always love to sit back and sip my lemonade or my coffee and watch men take the lead. I also I love to experience it when my my virtue as a woman is called forth by men. Like they're so confused, we don't know what to do. We just need a woman in our life. I think I always see this happen every time in my life because of the brothers I grew up with. I get to the house and there's so much confusion in the house. I mean, it's not like the house is falling apart, but they all tried to do what they could do. But let me just give an instance. I'm not sure this happened at home, but maybe there's so in their mind, in a man's mind, there's just so little to, I'm just giving this instance, there's just so little to mix together and get food on the table in their mind. And they're confused. Should we start cooking this? This won't be enough for the house. But then I step into the house as the queen of the house and they show me the situation. I'm like, okay, don't worry, I'll deal with this. And I mix all of the little things that I think we have. Voila, food is on the table and they enjoy the food. They're like, how come we didn't think of all of these things? And sometimes I see my brothers go into the kitchen to cook and they waste all the resources in the house and the food is still not nice. But me as a woman, I just use very little and I make this food and these guys are like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. So this part of being a woman makes me really happy. And so when I see feminists, I hate feminism with every ounce of blood in me. The fact that men are feeling doesn't mean I should abdicate my responsibility or my role. I love being a woman. And I just think feminists should relax. It won't work.
They must rest.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. Okay, Les, do you have something to say that you want to add?
I think it's more or less in related to what Oge is saying. I would like, let's see, as women, let's see the beauty of being a woman more than the negative inverted commas that we think comes with being a woman. Let's embrace, man, the traits, man, those unique traits that only we have as women, you know, and utilize them to our best of our abilities. You never know what they will do. So I think the problem is we're so trying to fight this gender, busy fighting, but we're missing what we can do with our beautiful traits that are godly ordained, man, godly ordained, and stuff. So let's embrace that, man. We will go far as women.
Thank you so much for that, Liz. And thank you, ladies, for joining us on this panel. I have a new appreciation for being a woman. Um, and I hope that our viewers at home have also enjoyed listening to us this evening. So thank you so much for joining us. And yes, ladies, we're going to ask you to come again in the future, in the very near future. There's a lot of things that we still haven't touched on. There was feminism, there was submission, there was so many things that I hope we can have you guys back on the program to talk about in the future. So thank you once again for coming and joining us. And thank you, Chilu, for being with us the whole time. We really appreciated that. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.